Hello and welcome to the 2025 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Selection Show. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. On this first Monday in March, so exciting to be holding a 64-team bracket in my hand. This spectacular event started in 1975. This month we will crown a champion for the 49th time. Once again do so in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where the national semifinals and final will be held March 20th and 22nd. If your school is announced today, you've already done something special. 64 spots out of over 400 Division III schools. 43 teams in as automatic qualifiers. That leaves just 21 spots for at-large selection. One of the best ways to get excited this time of the year leading up to the championships is by reading D3Hoops.com. This morning we are honored to have executive editor Patrick Coleman with us today. Patrick, appreciate the time and insight. I enjoyed the Hoopsville podcast last night. Is this like Christmas morning for you?
Absolutely. I think anytime you get to unwrap a brand new bracket and, play with it, you don't have to put the pieces together, which is great. Unlike most of us on a Christmas morning or a Christmas night. So yeah, super happy. This is a great day in Division III.
Patrick, probably less drama right now than in most years. There's always anticipation, but the schools know they are in, and the new NPI rankings make things pretty cut and dry on those at-large selections. We'll be still looking at the matchups and where teams are going, but do you think everyone appreciates more transparency than ever before?
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that especially a lot from coaches. In a lot of cases, there would be on a day like today, 64 teams sitting in rooms across campuses across America, not knowing 64 would come away happy, right? And there'd probably be another 10 or 15 or so who would have a really disappointing rest of their day. We've shifted the disappointment, I guess, into Saturday or Sunday. These schools knew where they were likely to land on Saturday and then knew for sure where they were going to land on Sunday. But I think just having, a cut and dried formula, especially in basketball where, you play 25, 26, 28 games sometimes. There's lots of data out there to use. I think it's a good use of it. And yeah, I think it makes our job easier too. We don't have to try to guess what the committee is going to put into the tournament. We just want to guess where they're going, and we should find out where they're going.
So much information on Patrick's website, so much information in your head. So sit tight. We'll get your analysis over the next 30 minutes or so. 16 sites will host 4 teams for first and second round competition Friday and Saturday, March 7th and 8th. The teams are geographically paired whenever possible. So let us get right to it, and we will start with the number 1 team in the NPI, a host in a school with just 1 loss. Wesleyan, Connecticut, the first NESCAC team to go 10-0 in conference play since 2013. The first time a team has been ranked number 1 in team history. Head coach Joe Riley earned his 300th career win earlier in the season. It's the 10th consecutive winning season for Wesleyan. First and only loss came to Trinity in Sunday's title game despite 21 points from Shane Regan. Nicky Johnson, named All-American in his sophomore season, is the program's all-time assist leader. They will take on 15-12 Delaware Valley, first MAC Freedom Championship since 2016. 4th all-time, junior Antonio Redding now holds the Delaware Valley record for most three-pointers in a single season. Zolan Pear now 2nd all-time in program history with 151 blocks. Also headed there this weekend is 23-4 Chatham. Roll Cougs, automatic qualifier, claiming the President's Athletic Conference crown, 81-69 over Washington and Jefferson. Already a season to remember as they won a program record 23 games. Their opponent on Friday, 20-7 Gettysburg, 4th in the most recent Region 5 rankings. This is their 6th NCAA appearance and the first since 2009. Another 4-team event includes 19-8 Stockton. The Ospreys in the tournament for the 20th time in program history, 9th best rebounding team in Division III. Individually, junior E.J. Matthews-Spraitley is the NJAC first-team selection. He leads the league in scoring and free throw percentage. Ithaca is in 18-9, the Liberty League tournament champions. After a 72-67 win against the number 1 seed RPI on their home court, they were picked to finish 6th in the league. 24 points for Evan Gabriel and 23 for Logan Wendell in the championship. And the host here is 24-3 WPI, 15th NCAA tournament appearance, 15th in the latest NPI rankings. Senior Layden squad, the top seed in the NUMAC tournament after a 15-1 regular season conference record. Aiden Callahan leads the team in scoring, while Tim Reedy, J.R. Newman, and Brett Morelli all average double figures. Husson will travel to Worcester, Massachusetts this weekend. Riles Neff, the North Atlantic Conference Player of the Year, finished 18-7 in the regular season and grabbed the league's automatic qualification. Jeremy Maranta leads the team with 8.1 rebounds per game. 7th in the nation is Husson in fewest fouls committed per game. So Patrick is back. We must start with Wesley. And as you said on that Hoopsville podcast Sunday, nothing changes by losing one game. Still a top team and true championship contender.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so 26 wins. This is the most in the history of the program. Loss doesn't count for, doesn't cost them anything, as you said. This is just their 5th trip to the NCAA tournament, but all of them in the past 10 full seasons under Joe Riley. And, opening weekend at Silhouette Gymnasium, that's just the 2nd time in the past 4 years, 3rd time ever. It's going to be a fun atmosphere there at Wesleyan. Delaware Valley, you mentioned Antonio Redding. How about his 47 points against Stevens in a regular season game in mid-February as the conference schedule was winding down? Without that win, Del Val might not even make the conference playoffs, let alone get back to beat Stevens on Saturday. Chatham, now just in their 9th full season of men's basketball at this school, but they've quickly earned the label of perennial contenders in the President's Athletic Conference. They play Gettysburg. Gettysburg's got their most wins since 2008. Gettysburg, if there were drama, if we didn't know who the teams were, you would have known right now. This is the last at-large team in the field. They had a big win against Hampton-Sydney earlier in the year that gets them in this tournament, and that's something that NPI can basically tell us for sure. Stockton, you mentioned Matthew Sprately, is on pace to have the highest scoring average in school history. If he can maintain that 23.3 points a game. They went to the round of 16 2 years ago, but they were 1-0 last year. Ithaca, you mentioned they knocked off a number 1 seed. And you mentioned Logan Wendell, but maybe you do remember a top plays shot where he chucked it over the back of his head to win the game at the buzzer a year ago in January. He's now the leading scorer at just shy of 18 a game. WPI, man, they have been out on the outside looking in at this point previously in these days, but even with that NUMAC final loss on Sunday, they are in 16 in a row up until that point. And Husson, man, just can't say enough about what Warren Caruso, the head coach, has done building this program at his alma mater. Head coach since 1994, 587 career wins, back in the tournament for the 3rd time in 4 years.
Great insight on those 8 schools. We will move on and introduce you to our next host institution, Ramapo. At-large selection, 3 1,000-point scorers on this team: Peter Gorman, Jordan Myers, and Shane Rooney. The starting 5, all seniors. This is the program's 10th appearance in the tournament, and the 9th under 26th-year head coach Chuck McBreen. Their opponent on Friday, same record, 20-7. Claremont Mudscripts, a thrilling Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference title game won by Claremont Mudscripts thanks to an A.J. Rahosi game winner. He's a former player at Washington State, scored 28 points in the go-ahead basket with 10 seconds to play. What a moment for CMS. A delightful season for Drew in the NCAA tournament for the first time in program history. They won the landmark tournament over the weekend. You see some highlights on the screen. 3rd-year head coach Michael McSloy. They've not lost since January 8th, the first men's basketball team in conference history to go undefeated in a regular season play, 18-0, 6th in the country in scoring, despite no player averaging more than 14 points per game. They're 4th in three-pointers made. 5 of the top 7 scorers, including the top 3, are all seniors. Now, Drew won the 2021 landmark tournament, but because Division III did not hold a tournament that year, this is that elusive first ever NCAA berth. Nice story from Drew. Mary Washington is in 13-14, but victory over Christopher Newport in the Coast to Coast Athletic Conference title game sends them to the tournament for the 4th time in program history. They snapped a 14-game losing streak to the captains dating back to 2019. A great season for Guilford continues in the championships. The ODAC automatic qualifier thanks to a 79-74 win over Roanoke. Tournament most valuable player Nick Farrar finished with 21 points and 12 rebounds, 8th time in this tournament. And they will battle 19-8 Barry. Braxton Benham became the all-time Division III era leading scorer this season, holds the D3 records for career steals and assists, named the SAA Athlete of the Year. 2 40-point games already this season. The host here is 20-5 Emory, ranked inside the top 15 all season, the first #1 ranking in program history. 20-win season for the first time since 2022, and 9th under head coach Jason Zimmerman. Ben Pierce, Jair Knight reached the 1,000-point milestone this season. And the team leader in blocks per game, 6'7" senior Logan Shanahan is the conference leader with 69. Emory meets Huntington, another first-time participant in the championship. Huntington here after winning the Collegiate Conference of the South Championship for the first time in program history. B.J. Brown, tournament most valuable player. Nate Johns in the clincher surpassed the 1,000-point plateau. So 16 teams have been announced after another set of 8. Patrick is back. What stands out to you about the schools on the screen right now?
Well, first of all, how about bringing Claremont Mudscripts all the way across the country? You had 3 schools from the SCIAC, that's Southern California Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and by rule, you can't put them all in the same pod. I know you mentioned matchups are geographically based, and that's true, but you have to send Claremont somewhere. Let's send them to Northern New Jersey. So this is a matchup that maybe you would see at the D3Hoops.com Classic in Las Vegas, but instead you're seeing it here in the first round of the NCAA tournament. On the Ramapo side, Peter Gorman's the guy you need to know. He runs the offense. He leads the team in assists as well as in scoring at 21.8 a game. For Claremont, you talked about Rahosi. I'm just excited for more kids to really see this guy, more people to see this guy play. Kid is really talented. Would you rather be a walk-on at Washington State or come to the D3 level and average a double-double? I know what I would prefer, but I'm a D3 junkie, so what do I know? Drew, you know, they last year they started 13-1. They lost a few games down the stretch to miss out on a trip, but they've been firing on all cylinders. They have just 3 losses all season. One of them is to NYU, and almost nobody has lost to NYU. You mentioned the scoring per game. How about 8 guys on this roster who average 7 or more points a game? That's a lot of scoring that goes pretty deep. Mary Washington, below 500, not the bottom seed in this bracket. Think of all the teams that they played this year. So they went out and they scheduled Gettysburg. They scheduled Franklin and Marshall, Catholic, Hampton-Sydney, Guilford, and then, of course, they played Christopher Newport 3 times, and they won that one on Saturday to break that streak and get into the tournament. Guilford won the ODAC. I don't know if they needed to win the entire ODAC to get into the NCAA tournament, but they were kind of on the bubble when the conference tournament week started. They certainly goosed their numbers in the NPI by the end of the week. And, of course, it's the same program that edged CNU in the round of 8 last year, and they played in the national semifinals in Fort Wayne. Barry, they've won 12 of their last 13 games. The 3rd time in 4 years they've been in this tournament. Emory's the only team to beat NYU this season. They did so on a memorable Friday night up in Manhattan. Jair Knight, I mean, he only scored 15 that night, but he's option number 1 for the Eagles at 19 a game. Ben Pierce had the big day that game at NYU with 28 points, and he's the big assist guy. And we'll see if the school extends Friday night food truck night to this first round game here in the NCAA tournament. It's been a big popular program for the folks on campus. And not to leave out Huntington, this program's come a long way in the last 2 years under Zach Richards, the head coach. He inherited a team that had gone 2-23 in 22-23, and they've improved by 10 wins each year to 12-14 last year and 22-6 this year. What a meteoric rise for the Hawks.
Patrick, you had me at Friday food truck. That would be fun. Now moving on to the bottom left-hand portion of the bracket, a host and a school that we have already mentioned on this show is Trinity, Connecticut. Back-to-back NESCAC championships. An 8-point victory over the number 1 seed Wesleyan gives Trinity automatic qualification. Junior Henry Vetter netted a team-high 16 points in the championship. Best scoring defense in Division III, allowing just 56 points per game at last check. An overtime win over Marymount, West Virginia puts Newman in the tournament. They won 83-77 over the weekend. DJ Earl, 30 points. Dante Dupriest has been a difference maker for the Knights, averaging a double-double, 18 and 15 entering the conference tournament, and Jim Rollo picked up his 200th win over the weekend as well. There's a Little East Conference four-peat for the first time ever. Keene State might want to get that one trademarked after knocking off Western Connecticut 80-67. An amazing four-year run for four seniors who dominated the LEC with a 66-7 record, including a 9-0 mark in postseason tournament games. Congratulations to Keene State. They will match up with 18-9 Clark, Massachusetts. 17th time for Clark in the tournament. Impressive 15-point win over the number one seed in the NEWMAC WPI. First time for the Cougars in the field since 2010. Hello, Hamilton, 20-6 at-large selection with an NPI ranking of 16. Heartbreaking exit out of the NESCAC tournament as they lost to Wesleyan 82-77 in double overtime Saturday, but sunshine on this Monday as Coach Adam Stockwell's team in for the 13th time. Should be a fun first-round game against Western New England, first Conference of New England tournament title in program history. The Golden Bears made the number one seed hold up by knocking off Suffolk 75-74. Seeing their name in this bracket so special. First time for Western New England since 2001. Host of these two games is Montclair State, regular season champions of the NJAC and tournament title thanks to an overtime win over Ramapo. 8th time in the field in program history, just the second since 2003. This team finds the open man. They are 5th in the nation in assists per game. The top passer is Kieran Flanagan. In 7 previous NCAA appearances, Montclair State has a 6-7 record. And their first matchup is against 21-7 Utica, automatic qualifier out of the Empire 8. Patrick Coleman is back. You know that Western New England Suffolk game was outstanding over the weekend, but is Trinity, Connecticut the most likely survivor of these 8 teams?
Oh, great question. Obviously Trinity is, in really good shape, right? They've got a lot of the same guys who took them to the national semifinals last year. They barely skipped a beat. They've dominated Tufts in 2 appearances, which is, a good indicator. Look at Keene, though. You never count out a team with Octavio Brito. They won 13 in a row earlier this season. Slipped a little bit, lost twice in 8 games. Look out for Keene. Western New England, right? First trip to the tournament since 2001. It was a fun scene up at Springfield. They had fans packed in all over the place at that gym. They survived when a buzzer beater was waved off by Suffolk. They're going to go to another great atmosphere at Montclair State. Montclair State is a gigantic school with a tiny little gym, seats about 600. You saw in some of those clips there, just people packed in all over the place, and it was even crazier for that NJAC final. It'd be interesting to see Utica too. Their record is not as good as it's been in years past, but the Empire 8 got tougher. They added a couple of schools, Brockport, which had been a contender in the SUNYAC for several years. So it'd be interesting to see how this field of 8, this group of 8 shapes up.
All right, let us continue. We will introduce you now to Roanoke. They're gathered in the foyer of the Krager Center right now. The Maroons in as an at-large, the 5th seed in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. The Maroons dropped the league title game to 3rd-seeded Guilford on Sunday, but they run efficient offense, and they are in the tournament, ranking 6th in Division III in field goal percentage. Pfeiffer is in, the USA South champion and automatic qualifier. First time in the championships. The Falcons left no doubt, dominating North Carolina Wesleyan 108-80. The host here, 28th year in for Christopher Newport. Had to take one of the at-large spots in the field after a 5-point loss to Mary Washington in the Coast to Coast Conference tournament over the weekend. They ranked 12th in the final NPI rankings as a team, 2nd in the country in blocks per game, 8th in rebounds per game. They've got championship pedigree as well, having cut down the nets after winning the 2023 Division III National Championship. John Jay is in, the Bloodhounds, the automatic qualifier out of the Kuniak. John Jay beat the league's top seed, Baruch, 80-70 on Friday. Jameer Stewart scored 23 points en route to most valuable player honors. Now the final host on the left side of the bracket, the 4 teams will gather at Franklin and Marshall, the Diplomats. Now, 9-time champions of the Centennial Conference, automatic qualification locked up after a 60-47 win over Johns Hopkins on Sunday. John Seidman earned Centennial Conference Tournament Most Valuable Player honors, averaging 16 points per game and nearly 8 rebounds, shooting 46% on field goals, and get this, 57% on three-pointers over the tournament weekend. Now, despite the loss in the landmark final to Drew, Catholic gets to see its name in the field. At-large selection, 16th time in program history. They won it all back in 2001. Randolph-Macon, the next school to recognize the 2022 national champs, 5th in the latest D3 Hoops poll, 7th in the final NPI. The Yellow Jackets fell to Guilford College in the ODAC semifinals. Head coach Josh Merkel named the Conference Coach of the Year for the 7th time. Keyshawn Pulley Jr. and Jabril Robinson, first-team All-Conference. This is their 21st tournament appearance. And the 32nd school to see its name on this program, 21-6, Westfield State, victorious in the MASCAC tournament, 93-63 over Salem State. Will be making a 4th tournament bid under Rich Sutter. 6th overall, first-year player Kenny Rogers Jr., the leading scorer in the conference, top 5 in rebounds and assists as well. He does it all. The Owls rank as a team in the top 10 in scoring offense, free throws made, 5th in steals, and 3rd in turnover margin. Patrick is back. Maybe a more wide open set of 8 teams. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Christopher Newport over the weekend, they struggled with UC Santa Cruz in the conference semis. And of course, you mentioned they lost to Mary Washington. Roanoke, hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since 2001. They were an 80s and 90s staple in this event. So interesting to see with them. John Jay just is a great story, which I have to mention. You mentioned they won the conference final, but they lost the conference semifinal, and then they got advanced through to the championship game because their opponent had some eligibility issues with a player. This bottom half of this bracket of 8 here, first of all, we're throwing it back to 2000 with that F&M Catholic matchup, a game I was at, and I must say, yes, I know a lot of people out there know, but Catholic is my alma mater, so I just have to throw that disclaimer there. And this is probably a pod that would be hosted at Randolph-Macon, but if Randolph-Macon is not hosting in this tournament, this is your indication. It's a spoiler alert, but I think everybody knows it's an open secret. That means the Randolph-Macon women will be hosting a first weekend event when we have that conversation in a couple hours.
Stay tuned in a couple hours here on NCAA.com. 32 schools know their destination and matchup. 32 to go. We will roll right along, showing you the second one-loss team in the tournament. NYU, currently second most victories in one season in program history. Only the 93-94 Violets had more wins. They had 25, so that mark could come down soon. 5 players averaged double figures. Tristan Howe, 15 points per game. He also grabs 10 rebounds a contest, and the top assist man is Jack Stone. National runner-up in 1994. They are number 2 in the nation in field goal percentage. Their opponent, Cortland. Congratulations to the Red Dragons. SUNY Cortland will participate in the event for the 7th time. Tournament most valuable player, Kendall Curie, did the heavy lifting in the league championship game, scoring 16 points while grabbing 12 rebounds. John Carroll is in. They top Mountain Union to grab automatic qualification out of the Ohio Athletic Conference. The Stars stepped up. Henry Rayner and Will Yontek. Rayner, 22 points, 15 boards. Yontek, 21 points and 9 rebounds. They rallied from down 8 early in the second half to win. This is their 18th NCAA appearance. Congratulations to JCU. The host of this 4-team set now, star on the screen for York, PA, the first MAC Commonwealth crown for York. 5th time they have won a conference title. Previously brought home hardware from the old Capital Athletic Conference. Senior Kai Kipala, named Tournament Most Valuable Player, scored 26 points in Saturday's clincher. A great season for 22-5 Cal Lutheran, in as an at-large after falling to Claremont Mudscript Sunday. We talked about that game. 3rd straight year in the championship, 7th time in program history. Devin Lewis leads the way offensively, nearly 23 points per game, also a 44% three-point shooter. And how about Tommy Griffiths? Look for him inside. He cleans up the glass for 22-5 Cal Lutheran. Their opponent, Hardin Simmons. 18-9 automatic qualifier representing the American Southwest Conference. One of the 16 host schools is St. Thomas, Texas. They took down Trinity 58-53 in overtime in the SCAC championship over the weekend to lock up the spot in the field. Andrew Adebo, 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 steals. They will host Lewis and Clark on Friday, and thanks to a 70-57 Northwest Conference championship win against Whitman, first conference title since 2002. Also the last time they participated in this event. And what a turnaround. They finished 9th out of 9 teams in the conference last season. They were picked to finish 9th in the preseason coaches poll, and here they are. Patrick, you've had a chance to catch your breath. We're halfway home. What makes NYU number 2 in the NPI so good?
NYU is just big and long, and they get up and down the floor real well, and they shoot real well. You know, all the sorts of things that you expect from a great Division III team. They've got a lot of guys who could be playing at other levels of competition, and some of them actually have. This is another one of those spoilers. I'm sorry, NYU men would be hosting this weekend, except that the women will be hosting when we look at that bracket a little later. John Carroll seems to have shook off the injury to Luke Ciccone. That was one of their big key players, got hurt early in the season, but they've kept it together. They won the OAC title. And York, you mentioned first time winning the MAC Commonwealth, but they had a run of 3 trips to the tournament in a row, 2018, 2019, 2020. Cal Lutheran, Hardin-Simmons. Boy, do not overlook Hardin-Simmons. They've come on of late. They had some injury problems early in the season. I didn't think they really had their full lineup together and healthy till sometime in mid-January, and they came together and won the American Southwest Conference. And St. Thomas, that's a tiny little gym out there in the Houston area. Look for that place to be rocking, and a good place to be seeing the NCAA tournament for the first time.
Looking forward to some jam-packed gymnasiums and great atmospheres this weekend. We will roll right along and recognize TCNJ, 30th in the final NPI rankings. TCNJ watching this show with an at-large in hand that puts them in the field for the 2nd consecutive season and 9th time in program history. Pitt Bradford 23-3. They won the AMCC automatic qualification for the 3rd time ever, first time since 2003, and still celebrating a thrilling 92-90 win against Penn State Altoona Friday. Furious finish on their home court as the Panthers outscored the visitors 12-3 over the final 5 minutes. The next host school is Hampden-Sydney, record of 21-5, runner-up to Trine in 2024. Adam Brazil scored 23 points in that title game, returned this season on a mission. Named the conference's player of the year, started all 26 games in the regular season, averaging over 18 points. A true student athlete, named the conference scholar athlete of the year. This team closed the regular season winning 11 of 12, getting that at-large spot after falling in the conference tournament quarterfinals. They will welcome Bryn Athyn, 20-8, regular season and conference tournament champions of the United East. This quote from head coach Sean Westerland: "Their names are forever etched in stone. It took every man in that locker room to accomplish this. I'm proud of our group. We earned another week together, and I'm excited to see who we draw during the selection show." Well, you've drawn Hampden-Sydney in that first round. A sensational season for St. Joseph's, Maine. Automatic qualification after winning the Great Northeast Athletic Conference tournament. The Monks down LaSalle 79-72. The team's leading scorer, Remy Joani, scored 27. They've won 18 consecutive games. Their opponent is Redlands, 4th time in the field in school history, and the first time since 2013. How about a star next to Tufts? They should be tough. Hosting this weekend, 3rd-ranked team in Region 1, a powerhouse, though, as evidenced by that number 8 NPI ranking. At-large selection, competing in that always tough NESCAC. They were 8-2 in conference games. They're averaging nearly 77 points per game. Junior James Maracas leads the way with 17 per contest. This is the 3rd straight NCAA appearance for Tufts. 9th time in program history for head coach Brandon Linton and the Jumbos. They will host Yeshiva, 4th time in the championships. They have a 2-2 record all time in this event. So Patrick, you look at these 8 schools, who's most likely to pull off a first round upset?
Oh, very interesting. So I think if you talk about, first of all, that matchup between TCNJ and Pitt Bradford, I think you're going to see a lot of points scored in that game. That's a neutral site game and not necessarily ripe for first round upset or ripe for upset. But the winner of that game comes out and plays presumably Hampton-Sydney if they advance. That's a game really to keep an eye on. I think Tufts and Yeshiva, what a combination there. Yeshiva with the last second shot on Sunday to win against Farmingdale State to advance. And then you see Redlands coming all the way across the country to Boston. I love that as well. Eric Bridgeland's got 9 guys who are going to average between 10 and 26 minutes. They're going to pressure you up and down the floor. That'll be a really interesting matchup for them in the first round against the Monks.
All right, let's move on. Wisconsin-Platteville is a host this weekend. The champs of the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference tournament defeating rival lacrosse 89-68, third in the WPI and the NPI, sixth in the country in assist to turnover ratio, 4-time national champions. You see some highlights of Wisconsin-Platteville on your screen. Will be tough for them to slow down Grinnell. They lead the nation in 3-pointers made per game, 15.3 free throws per game as well. If Grinnell is in the tournament, the Pioneers, yes, they set the school record for victories in the season with 20. Wisconsin Lutheran is in second straight appearance, third time in program history, just 3 losses all season, an at-large selection. They're led in scoring by the three-headed monster, Ryan Breckel, Jacob Stoltz, and Grayson Getz, all average between 15 and 18 points per game. Getz makes the offense go, 140 assists this season. They will host Calvin, no stranger to this event, 2-time national champion, 24th NCAA appearance. Denison has another great season, 24-3, second time in program history. They are in a North Coast Athletic Conference tournament champion. Aiden King, tournament most valuable player. Competitive first-round game expected when they take on Franklin. 7th HCHC crown for the Grizzlies. A 72-66 victory over Anderson on Saturday. 17 points for Braden Flanagan after the win. Cody Samples said, "This one was done by brotherhood. We trusted each other and knew we could all make a big play when we needed it." Now the final first-round matchup on this screen features Wash U, 2-time national champion, no stranger to the tournament, 26th appearance. Pat Yuckham picked up his 300th career coaching victory in November. Senior Hayden Doyle now ranks 10th all-time on the scoring list. Wash U can shoot 6th in the country in three-point percentage. They'll meet Central Iowa. The school's social media account said Saturday, Dutch are going dancing. American River's automatic qualification by defeating Nebraska Wesleyan 68-57. Patrick, what do you have for these 8 teams?
I think you look at Platteville. Obviously, they've done really well against some of the top flight competition in that conference all year. Grinnell's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to press all up and down the floor, shoot a lot of threes. It'll be interesting to see that team and that program in the tournament for the first time since 2001. Wisconsin Lutheran, we've been waiting for this moment, and it's a great matchup. Wisconsin Lutheran, they lost in overtime at Wash U in the first round last year, had all those guys back, have been on everybody's watch list all season, have stumbled a couple of times, but here's the chance to prove it. And Calvin's a team that's on a run, and I don't have time to say too much more than that, but it should be a great matchup. Down at the bottom, Wash U and Central. Central has one of the great 5s in Division III, one of the great big men, back to the basket guy who can score 40 points a game. It'd be interesting to see that matchup, and Denison and Franklin filling out that pod very nicely.
All right, 8 more teams to get to. A championship contender is St. John's, Minnesota. The Johnnies earned the MIAC's automatic qualifier into the tournament. They defeated Carleton 74-59. Luke Healy, Ryan Thyssen, and Connor Schwab each had 12 points in the clincher. Cooper Vaughn, now the school record holder for made three-pointers in a career. This is their 22nd national postseason berth and 13th in the NCAA ranks. They will travel to UChicago, at-large spot in the field, 7th appearance and 1st since 2008. We must also praise Illinois Wesleyan, number 2 in the most recent Region 8 rankings, number 9 in the NPI, 1997 national champs, in for the 27th time in program history. First round game for Illinois Wesleyan is against 14-13 Bethany Lutheran. started the season 3-10 before winning 11 of their last 14 games. The Vikings came back from down 21 at Northwestern to pick up that AQ clinching 90-84 win in overtime. 4 more schools to show you. One of those is Carthage. Head coach Steve Jurkovich, 5th season at the helm, the CCIW Coach of the Year. They're an at-large after falling to Illinois Wesleyan in that CCIW title game. A.J. Johnson and Riley Brooks each average over 15 points per game to lead a well-balanced Carthage offensive attack. St. Norbert is in 22-6, automatic qualification from the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference. This is their 11th appearance. Final video clip to highlight features Wisconsin lacrosse. They could not get over the hump against Platteville in the conference title game over the weekend, but they've done enough to earn an at-large spot for the 4th time in program history. 4 players average double figures, led by Sam Greiger's 15 points per game. They are the only team, Platteville is the only team to beat lacrosse since December 7th. Now, lacrosse is a host. Their opponent, 64th team to see its name on the screen. One of the more intriguing teams is Greenville, champions of the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, 115-104 over Webster. They average 117 points per game. Number 1 in the country is in assists, as you might imagine. They put up 45 three-pointers a game, 2nd ever tournament appearance. The other came in 2018. So, Patrick, let's start there. This one has my attention for the fun factor.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about the system that Grinnell runs. How about, first off, every once in a while I wonder if there's irony in the pairings, and to pair both of these system teams up against WIAC teams is a lot of fun in the first round. George Barber's team takes that Grinnell system and they run it turned up to 11. Up at the top pod here, this is one of those spoiler pods. Illinois Wesleyan would be hosting this pod, but do know that means that the Illinois Wesleyan women will be hosting. And that's a great pod. I mean, you think of those teams at the top, especially St. John's, University of Chicago, Illinois Wesleyan. Those are all really quality teams that you would not be surprised to see in the second weekend. And Bethany Lutheran, I mean, upset winners in that conference tournament, but they've been at this level before and they've surprised people in this level of the tournament. Back down to St. Norbert in this bottom half and Carthage. St. Norbert won its way in. They beat Wisconsin Lutheran and they beat them handily in the NAC championship on Sunday, so the Green Knights are playing on as well.
Patrick Coleman, outstanding job. Sit tight. We'll see you also on the women's selection show later this afternoon. Be sure to follow D3Hoops.com over the next few weeks for their comprehensive coverage. 16 sites will host 4 teams for first and second round competition this weekend. The second round winners will advance to one of 4 sectional sites March 14th and 15th. And of course, the winners of those sectional championship games advance to the semifinals and finals March 20th and 22nd at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Definitely want to give a shout out to Patrick Coleman and everyone at D3Hoops.com. My name is Jeremiah Johnson. Good luck to the participating schools and student athletes, and enjoy the championships.
I teach the art of fanology, a job I take seriously. As to the question of nature versus nurture, is a fan born or is a fan made? I know this. Our game can make a fan out of anyone. And at Fandom U, we take it to a whole new level. The NCAA Championships. Attendance is encouraged, passion is mandatory. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets. Class dismissed.